Good morning. How's everyone doing today? Excellent. Glad to hear it. Thank you so much for coming. You have made an absolute excellent decision being here today. How many of you have attended a body language show before? Oh, excellent. How many of you is their first time? First class with 3 key elements? Awesome. Excellent. Well, you're in for a treat. Ann Washburn, she's going to be your trainer today. She is phenomenal. And the information that you're going to get today is going to help you throughout your life. I'm so excited for you. My name is DJ Behnken. I'm the AV team advisor, so I run all the audio and visual equipment. So you're aware, there are bathrooms right outside this door as well as a water dispenser. If you need to use them, feel free. So because a lot of you, this is your first time with 3 key elements, I want to tell you a little bit about the company that I work for. 3 key elements has been recognized by Inc. 500 5000 4 consecutive years as one of the fastest growing companies in America. They've been celebrated by Utah 100 for the last 4 years, and they've received the Best of State Award in Special Education. They've been presented with the Utah Genius Award, and they've been invited, now this is a big deal, they've been invited 3 times to have an article to write in Forbes magazine. Big round of applause for accomplishments. Excellent, thank you. Our mission statement here at 3 Key Elements is to empower the human mind, improve relationships, and increase personal power, and inspire self-mastery. Now, that is one of the main reasons I started with 3 Key Elements. And one of the things that when I first started coming as a student that I loved is today you're going to receive tools that will help you with the relationships that you have with your friends, your family, your loved ones. It's going to help you better yourself so that you love who you are more, and it helps you achieve your goals and inspire self-mastery. It helps you become more of the person that you want to be. How many of you want to achieve some of those successes in your life? Excellent. That was me too. And I can promise you that Ann Washburn, that's her goal. That's her goal when she's up here training you. I've watched her over the last 3 years, and she has transformed, absolutely transformed. And she is one of my mentors and one of the people that I look up to greatly, because as she learns new things, she teaches new things, and she helps those around her become better. Ann Washburn she travels all over the country teaching and training for different groups, and she does body language shows a lot. She's a body language expert. One of my favorite things about Ann is that she can look at you, and she knows how to help you without you ever saying anything. And so one of the big benefits of learning body language and what she's going to talk to you about today is how to open your heart and open your mind to improve your relationships through body language. Not only, when you think of body language, you think of those TV shows they have where they're like, oh, is this person lying? And you can tell by body language. You'll get a little bit of how to understand people a little bit better, with body language through this course. But you're going to learn a lot about yourself and how you can create the results you want in your life through adjusting your personal body language and getting different results with your children, with your friends, with your family, because you now know what communication you're sending off with your body language, not just with your words. And so that's a huge part of what I've learned through watching Ann. And so big round of applause for you guys being here today to learn these wonderful things. Thank you so much. All right, so without further ado, it is my pleasure to welcome to stage Miss Ann Washburn.
Thank you, DJ. Good morning, everybody. You made it. Good job. I'm so glad you're here. So how many of you know anything about body language? A few half a hands there. How many of you would like to know what the person sitting next to you is saying with their body language? Some of you were like, I don't know if that's allowed. Well, here's why I love teaching people about body language. Does everybody have one of these? Show me yours so I can see it. Excellent. If you look at the very front of this, on the front and the bottom right here, it says the 3 voices of communication. When it comes to communication, there are different ways that we send information to people. This is why we can have games like Pictionary and charades, is because we know that there's messages that can be sent without ever opening our mouth. However, when we're communicating with somebody, we use all three of these parts of communication. We use our words, we use the tone of those words, and then we use our gestures or our body language. Now, about in the 1950s, I think is what it was, there was a study that was done, and what they were trying to figure out was if the words and the voice tone don't match, or if the words and the body language don't match, which one will people pay more attention to? Which one will people take the most meaning out of? And in that study, they found, and I'm going to draw it like a pie chart, they found that in communication, if the messages don't match, people only use the words for the meaning 7% of the time. 7% if they don't match. But when it came to the tone of the words, 36% of the time they used the tone of the words. We know this because how many of you have ever gotten in trouble for your tone of voice? Yeah, so if they don't match the tone of voice, people pay more attention to that. And in this study, they found that approximately 57% of the time, they paid more attention to the body language for the meaning of what you were talking about. 57% of the time. So look at that. That means that if your words and your body language don't match, which one are people going to pay more attention to? The body language. And so when we're in school, in elementary school, we grow up and every year they require us to learn about our body language, right? No, but every year we have to learn how to diagram sentences. We have to learn what the words mean. We spend all this time on the words, but yet then when it comes to the communication, if the words don't match the body language, people pay attention to the body language. And when they don't match, we call that miscommunication. Have you ever miscommunicated with somebody? Does that become costly to miscommunicate? Because let's face it, if any of you have ever been married, we know that we can miscommunicate. If any of you have ever had a neighbor, we know that we can miscommunicate. Or this one, if any of you have ever had a sister-in-law, then we know we can miscommunicate. Or maybe even when we're at a restaurant, we can miscommunicate with the waiter or waitress. Miscommunication can become very costly in our life. And yet this is the biggest cause of miscommunication, is when our words and our body language don't match. And so learning about our body language is powerful, because if we can send the same message with our words as our body language, we now improve communication. And in our world, I don't know if you've noticed, but people are involved in almost everything that we do. We're always working with people. And since we're working with people, it would behoove us, can I use that word in public? It would behoove us to know what we're saying with our body language. And yet, this isn't something that we're often taught, is what we're saying with our body language. Even out in the world, if you go talk to people about what they think body language is, they usually say, oh, it tells me if what they're saying to me is truthful or not. I want to know if they're lying to me. Sure, you can totally tell that with body language, but they miss the boat when it comes to improving relationships and improving communication, because that comes from understanding our own messages that we're sending to people. So last year, I was asked to give a TED Talk on that specific subject. Has anybody seen that TED Talk? Two of you. Awesome. So that is a resource that's available to you. You can go out on YouTube and type my name. It's there on the front of your paper, and you can watch that TED Talk. But the reason I was asked to do that was because I understand the connection between our body language and miscommunication, between our body language and our own programming inside of our head. And so today, while you're here, One thing I know about you is that you're really smart, because only really smart people choose to invest some time in themselves to improve their communication. So tell the person next to you, I knew you were smart. It was a given, right? It was so a given. So I want to show you what we are going to talk about today. Because I do these body language shows in here in our home office once a month, and they are broadcast online. So we have over 150 people joining us online today. So we have a camera right up here on the pole, so you guys can all wave at all the people that are joining us. We have all these people that are also wanting to learn about body language. Now, each month, we also have a focus or a topic for the body language class, because we could sit here and talk about body language for days. There is so much powerful information to know when it comes to body language. And today, our focus is on being able to improve our relationships with people. And so today, I'm going to talk about different kinds of relationships, how we can miscommunicate in those relationships, and how to improve our body language in those relationships. So if you notice in your handout here, in the middle, there's another handout. You can kind of like pull them apart like this. It's called multiplication, see? Or maybe it's division. Division causes multiplication. Ooh, I like it when there's sound effects like that. Try that with me. Ooh, oh, you guys are fun. Because here's something I know about your brain. When we allow ourselves to play a little bit, we actually retain more information. So you'll notice that I like to be playful. So in there, if you take this middle part out, it says the 3 Key Elements University. We are an education company, and this is a list of many of the classes and audio recordings we have in the company. You can put that down. That's for your reference later. This is what I want to draw your attention to right now. On the back here, there is a little bit about me. See, we match, that's me. And here in the middle is a list of many of the places that we've been to do trainings. Now, the part we want to look at is this inside part. So you can even fold your hand out backwards like this and crease it down the middle. Because this is where we've got some meat. This is where you've got some information that you can take home with you. You can take these handouts home with you. And in part 1 here, this is a list of the different categories of messages that come from our body language. So we'll reference this during the class today. That way you didn't have to take notes on every piece. I wrote it down for you, or our amazing media department put it on paper for you, and we'll be able to refer to this. Part 2 and part 3, these are fill in the blanks. But I'm a really nice teacher. I will give you all the answers, and if you miss one, I encourage you to cheat off your neighbor. Cool? You don't get that offer in a class very often. And then right here, where this beautiful stick figure is, isn't that a beautiful stick figure? I am going to use this stick figure to teach you why your brain would send a different message with your body language than it does with your words. Why, if you don't even know most of the time what you're saying with your body language, why wouldn't it match your words? Why wouldn't the body language automatically match? I want to show you what's going on there. Because once you have that foundation and that understanding, it's going to make a lot more sense, the things that I teach you about the messages you're sending in your body language and how you can upgrade them. Because our computers and our phones, they ask for upgrades all the time. All the time. In fact, currently on my computer just this morning, I got a message. You have software updates available. Do you want to install them right now? And I'm like, later. How many of you just keep pushing later, later, later? But then sometimes I open my computer, it depends on what kind you have, and the computer takes over and says, no, I'm installing the upgrades right now. I don't care what you're doing, you can wait until I'm done. Anybody have a computer like that? My husband does. I use a different kind, so I don't have to do that. But the reason for that is software developers know if we run a faulty program, we get a faulty result. Did you hear that? If we run a faulty program, we get a faulty result. And so we upgrade the computer, we upgrade the phone so that we get better and better results. Well, how many of you in here have ever wanted a better result in your life? Okay, then we need to have upgrades. And one of the most powerful and easiest shortcuts of upgrades is your body language. And so being here today, those are the things I want to share with you. Are you in?
Yes.
Do you want to learn these things? Some of you are like, I got drug here. I haven't decided yet. But here's the thing. Listen to this. I may ask you to get out of your comfort zone. It'll still be legal, moral, and ethical, but I may ask you to get out of your comfort zone. Because as long as we do things the same way we've always done them, we are destined to get the same result that we've always gotten. Einstein is credited with saying just that. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. But yet there's a reason we use our body language. And there's a reason why we hold to the same body language. They're not the same reasons. However, the thing is, I hear people all the time say, well, the reason I stand like that is because it's comfortable. The reason I hold my hands the way I do is it's comfortable. And that means we're staying in that comfort zone doing the same things we've always done. And they're like, well, why would I do it uncomfortable? You don't have to. But if you want a different result, it requires a different behavior. Behaviors lead to our results. And part of our behavior is our body language. So when we change our body language, we change our results. Changing body language changes results. That is a powerful thing to know. So the things you listen to and learn today, if you don't want any changes in your life, do not put any of them into practice. Because when you change your behavior, you do change your results. Because I think that there's another definition of insanity, and that is doing things differently and expecting everything to stay the same. Would that stand to reason? And so here, everybody play with me for a minute. Everybody fold your arms. Okay, now look down and see which arm is on top. Got it? There's no right or wrong answer. It's okay. But I'll tell you, it'll either be your left or your right arm. Okay? So those are the correct answers, left or right. Now, unfold your arms and fold them back with the other arm on top. Some of you are like, arms don't do that. Okay, now, how does that feel? How does it feel? I like that. It feels it feels uncomfortable. How else does it feel? Awkward, backwards, wrong. Okay, hold that feeling for just a minute because I want you to remember it. In science, this feeling that you're feeling is called cognitive dissonance. And cognitive dissonance states that your brain cannot hold on to two conflicting ideas at the same time without discomfort. Does that make sense? You are feeling a different message. A different message. Okay, you can unfold your arms. I don't want anybody to fold their arms the whole class. But I wanted you to feel that. That feeling is what I call an opportunity. It's an opportunity to get a different result. So when we feel cognitive dissonance, which is very similar to saying feeling ourselves outside of our comfort zone, it's an opportunity for new results. It's an opportunity to have a different result because of the new behavior. Behaviors lead to results. Body language is a behavior. So body language equals results. So we're going to talk about those things today. But I want to show you one more thing. My My oldest 3 children in the last year have returned from doing service outside the country. And right before the 3rd one was leaving to go to Argentina, we had a guy come over to our house to do a fire walk. Has anybody ever done a fire walk? They are so freaky cool, okay? They are freaky cool. Well, because I didn't get burned. And so here we were having this fire walk, but he had us, before we went out to the fire walk, they were making the coals out in the backyard, he talked to us for a little bit. And he said an interesting thing to us. He said, your brain rips you off. And I'm like, I would probably agree with that, but I want to hear what he had to say. And he said this, he said, everybody raise your hand. So everybody raise your hand for me. And he said, raise it as high as you can raise it. Oh, raise it. Okay, you got it as high as you can raise it? And then he said this. He goes, now raise it just a little higher. But wait a second. I told you to raise it as high as you could, and then you raised it a little higher. Your brain is ripping you off. It tries to make you believe that you can only do so much. It tries to make you believe that you need to stay in this comfort zone. And so I like to look at it this way. If this is you, aw, you're cute, aw. Then this is your comfort zone, then we tend to think that anything outside of that comfort zone is scary or bad. But yet, if this is the comfort zone, this is the growth zone. Clear out here is the unsafe zone. This is the things that are not safe. But in here, this is our growth zone. Here's the comfort zone. Here's the growth zone. And until you step into that growth zone, you can't accomplish new goals. You can't get new results. When you set a goal, you set a goal because it's something you've always done and it's super easy? Or do you set a goal because it's something you want to stay motivated to so that you can accomplish something new? In order to accomplish new things, we need to be willing to have new behavior. We need to be willing to go out into our growth zone. This is where growth happens. This is where same happens. So if you want things to stay the same, stay in the same zone. If you want them to grow, go in the growth zone. So your brain is ripping you off. And today, we are going to teach your brain that it's safe to go into your growth zone. It's safe to have different behavior. Hey, Doug, can you check the temperature in here? Because up here, at least, it's a little warm. Anybody else? A little warm? It's a little warm. Okay, thank you. So I would ask you today to be willing to try things differently. Be willing to play. Be willing to play so that you can retain what I show you and you can put it into practice when you leave and go back into the real world out there. Cool? Are you willing to play? All right, so we will play. But before we do that, can I tell you really quick how I became a body language expert? Anybody curious? Oh, cool, because it's a fun story. Because I've been working with 3 key elements now. In November, it'll be 7 years. And I love what I do. I teach body language classes here, but I also teach body language classes out all over the world and all over the country. So if you know a group of people who needs body language, come talk to me, because I travel and teach body language classes. 3 weeks ago, I was in New Mexico at a class, or teaching at an event down there. In the next month, I'm going down to Provo. I'm also going out to Wyoming. I'm doing classes all over, and I love that. The other thing I get to do is what we call mentoring. I work either one-on-one with people, or I also teach a small group mentoring in this room. Because then, imagine if I'm mentoring somebody and I'm only watching their body language and not all of your body language, I can quickly help them see what is between them and their goals they're trying to achieve, and show them how to get past those blocks so that they can accomplish their goals faster. I love getting to do that. And as I do this in the company, I love watching people's successes. I love watching people accomplish new levels of results in their lives. In fact, recently, I asked a few of the people, because this week I've already held several personal mentoring appointments, and I asked them, I said, why? What do you value about mentoring? Why are you here? And I had the most common response was, Anne, I signed up to mentor with you to help the results in a certain area of my life. And most of them that I had asked this question to had a money goal or a business goal or some kind of that kind of goal that they wanted. And they said the most amazing thing was, working with you, I have improved every area of my life, not just the one I signed up for. Because communication and body language affects all areas of our life, not just one. And so as we work on that, it improves every area of our life. So I love that. Now, before I had this coolest job on the planet, I used to work in flight simulation. I built multi-million-dollar flight simulators. And my first job out of college, I worked in explosives. So explosives, flight simulation, body language expert, career path. But that's not exactly the paper they gave me out of high school and said, go follow this career path. And the reason it happened that way was this. Back in high school, anybody been to high school? Crazy place, high school. I realized really quickly I didn't interact with the people very well. I didn't get along with the kids. I didn't get along with the teachers. It was a very frustrating place for me to be. So when I was 16 years old, I came up with a plan. The plan was leave high school, go to the nearest college, see if they would take me instead. Turns out they will. Really weird. They make you believe that you have to do certain things in order, but they said, sure, you can come to college. And I was like, awesome. But then they said, we need to know what you're going to major in. And I'm like, major in? I didn't even know I got to come to college. Why am I coming to college? Let me think for a second. And I'm like, okay, I'm coming to college to date the boys. That's why I'm coming to college. So I looked at the registration guy and I said, what majors do you have with no girls in them? And he went, no girls? And I'm like, I don't need the competition. And he's like, all right. So he looks in his book and he says, in that case, how about you be an engineer? And I said, no, thank you. I do not want to drive trains. And he looks at me and he goes, Anne, in our program, there are no trains and there are very few girls. And I said, oh, sweet, sign me up. So I went through school in mechanical engineering, and it's true there were not very many girls. I know, because one year they called me into the dean's office and they said, Anne, we've elected you Woman of the Year for the department. And I looked at him and I said, was that a hard contest? And he goes, let's just say we haven't had a Woman of the Year for a while. And I was like, okay, I think I'm honored, maybe. But I can still show my yearbook to my kids and say, see, I was Woman of the Year. I won't tell you how many were in the running, but I was Woman of the Year. And as I went through school, I dated some of the engineers. So when I graduated, I married one of them. And now we have 4 boys, they're getting pretty tall, and 1 daughter. And the thing is as an engineer, I could hide in my cubicle and I didn't have to communicate with people very much face to face. I could just send out emails and memos. Anybody here old enough to remember what a memo is? Emails or memos or text messages. I didn't have to go interact with them face to face. But then my kids got old enough to go to school. And now I was in trouble again. Because now I found myself at my kids' school getting in arguments with the teachers, getting in arguments with other parents. And I couldn't figure it out because I tried so hard to be nice. And yet here I was getting in fights with people. In fact, I remember I came home one day and I asked my husband, I said, how come everybody on this planet is so mean? And he goes, Anne, I don't think you want the answer to that question. And I'm like, fine, you're mean too. And this is how life was going for me, and it was very frustrating. In fact, I got to the point where I would just send the kids to school in the morning, and I would hide in the house. I wouldn't answer the door. I wouldn't answer the phone. I would pretend like I wasn't there, because no matter how much effort I put out, the results I was having did not match my effort. And that is frustration. Has anybody ever felt that? You put all this effort out, and here's your results. And over and over again, I tried so hard, and here was my result. So I was like, why try? Why keep going? But I remember at the time, I also was trying to learn things. And the way I tried to learn was I would sit on the couch with the remote and surf the 7 channels we had on the TV. And there wasn't really learning going on. This was called avoiding and hiding. Because as humans, now just know, whenever I go on a tangent, it is bonus material. And I go on tangents based on what I watch in the audience and how you respond to what I'm teaching. So I'm going to teach you a bonus tangent really quick. Would that be okay? And that bonus tangent is this. When we interact with people and we feel like somebody doesn't accept us or judges us or thinks less of us, we will respond in one of 3 ways. We will either want to change ourselves to become what we think they want, or we will want to hide and avoid people, or we will want to, it gets our dander up and we want to respond in kind and get angry or judge back. Those are the 3 main responses that we'll have. And for me, my main response was to hide. So I was hiding from the world that I felt judged me harshly. And so as I was hiding and I was trying to figure out what could I possibly do differently, or what could possibly change this result I was having, I noticed one time somebody's body language. I was watching an interview between entertainers, and they had about 10 movie stars standing. And in this interview, I remember seeing this picture of these people standing there for the interview. And I remember thinking, I would never stand like that. I remember actually standing up in my living room and trying to mimic their pose. And I thought, I hope nobody ever sees me do that. I would never hold my hands like that. I would never hold my feet like that. But it got me thinking. And I started thinking, really, could there be a connection between the fact that they stand different and they have different results, and I stand this way and I have these kinds of results? It got my brain thinking about it. So one day, I heard about a body language show, just like this one, and I signed my husband up for it. Because I wasn't going to go. There would be people there. I wasn't going to go. So I sent him, and I said, come home and teach me everything you learned. Well, he comes home from this body language show, and he finds me on the couch under a blanket, and he lifts up the blanket, and he says, guess what, Ann? I signed you up for a class. I grabbed the blanket, and I pulled it back down. I said, go away. I don't want to go to a class. I just want you to tell me what you learned. And he lifts up the blanket, and he says, Ann, the class is called Master Your Influence. You're going to go learn about communication and body language. And I was like, fine, body language. I do want to know about body language. But then I paid attention to me, and I watched my body language as I went to the class, and it was like, body language. Huh. And I sat in the back, and I thought, go ahead, try and teach me something. Because it wasn't me that needed to change, it was everybody else that needed to change. So why would I care about learning about my body language? Why would I care about that? My wheels had been turning, but in that moment, I did not want to know. But when I got clear on this idea that when your words and your body language send conflicting message, people will discount what you say to believe what they see. And I thought, I'm going to try it. I am going to try adjusting my body language. So as I left this class and I went and I tried new body language, here was the problem. I immediately got different results. Dang it. So then the stubborn in me kicked in. Who here's stubborn? Okay, all those people who wouldn't raise their hand, they're the really stubborn people in the class. But my stubborn kicked in. I was like, seriously? If I can get different results this quickly, how come nobody taught me about it? How come I didn't get any classes in body language in school? How many classes in body language have you been offered? Everybody say one, because you're here today. Because we don't know how important it is. So when I realized that, my stubborn kicked in and I said, fine, then I am going to change what I do. I'm going to change my career and go from cool things like blowing things up and building flight simulators to scary things like talking in front of groups of people. When I was down in New Mexico, I spoke to 1,400 people. 7 years ago, my eyes would have bugged out and I'd be like, 1,400 people? There's no way. I can't even talk to 2 people. But I want people to have the shortcuts that took me from, in my life, my relationships were all very hurting. Every relationship, whether that was relationships with my family, my in-laws, my house, my relationship with money, my relationship with my husband, all of them were hurting. My kids would come home from school and they'd say, Mom, there's an activity at school. Can Dad come with us? And I'm like, no moms allowed? Oh, I'm sure moms are allowed, but can Dad just go with us? Because they didn't really want people to know who their mom was. To where now in my life, my kids are excited to tell people who their mom is. They even, when they have questions on how to do things, come to me because our relationship has changed. I have improved every relationship in my life because of what I've learned in body language, and I want to pass those shortcuts on to you. But only if you want a different result in your life. Only if you want to put something into practice to get a new result. So I'm going to ask you again, are you in? Yes. Is this the right place for you to be today? Yes. Okay, I only heard half of you. So I'm just still watching to see if we're all in the right place. So today, I'm going to need some volunteers that come up to the front to help me demonstrate body language. So in order for this to be a safe place to have volunteers come up to the front, I'm going to have 3 rules for the class. Just 3. Would that be okay? 3 rules. And so I missed it. How many of you have been to a 3 key elements class before in the past? Okay. So these are the same 3 rules we use at every single class that we have. And the 3 rules are very simple. The first one is we are going to have a high level of respect. High level of respect. What's the word? Respect. So tell the person next to you, I will respect you till lunchtime. Tell this one too. After that, you're out of my jurisdiction. But till lunchtime, we're going to have a high level of respect. Rule number 2 is to be willing to be present. This includes being willing to participate, be willing to play. It also means if I ask you a question and you don't know the answer, be willing to guess. Because one thing I know about your brain is we have things that happen to us in our life as we're growing up that cause us to believe that guessing or being wrong is bad. But actually, when we guess, we open our mind up for the answer. And so I'm watching all of you. I'm watching everybody's body language while I'm up here today. Even you guys at home, I'm watching you too. And what I want to see is how open you are to receive the new information was the word I was going for. Maybe it's inspiration too. But as we receive this new information, part of how we can receive it is being willing to guess. Because sometimes I'll ask you a question that unless you've been to my class before, you won't know the answer. So be willing to guess. Be willing to play. Be willing to do something different out of your comfort zone so you can have a new result. So rule number 2 is to be present. And then rule number 3 is manage your communication device. That means make sure your cell phone's on silent. It also means manage this communication device. If you're here with somebody and you're like, this applies to you, manage this one. Also manage this communication device. If you have a question, wait till it's time for questions. If I have somebody up here and I ask them a question, don't answer for them because I'm wanting to see their answer. When I work with somebody, do you think I listen to their answer more or watch their answer more? I watch it, and I'm watching for when they don't match. Because if I can see, when I can see where they don't match, it now shows you where the block is between you and the results you're trying to get. So when I ask somebody a question up here, I don't need the answer as much as I need to hear their answer. Does that make sense? So rule number 3 is manage your communication device. So we have 3 rules. Rule number 1 is high levels of. Rule number 2 is to be. And rule number 3 is to everyone who will abide by these rules while you're here, raise your hand so I can see that we have an agreement. Excellent, excellent. So very last piece is this. That was 100% agreement. So the very last piece is this. What level are you willing to play at while you're here? Because I can play at whatever level you are willing to play at. And so the more you participate, the more information I will pour on you. So if you want more understanding and information, then it's time to be willing to participate. It's time to be willing to play. And that means be willing to give your 100%. Now, is your 100% going to be the same as somebody else's 100%? No. And is that okay? Absolutely. So I'm only asking for your 100%. And to me, what 100% looks like is just getting a little bit outside your comfort zone. That right there. 100% doesn't mean you have to go clear as big as you possibly can. It means get out of your comfort zone, out of your sameness zone, so that you can have new, so that you can have growth. So let's just try it. I'm going to say, I'm going to participate at 100%, and you'll participate at 100%. So let's try that and see if we can make it feel like 100%. I'll play at 100%, you play at 100%. Okay, so was that your 100? Did you feel yourself stretch out of there, or did you hold back? So let's just try it one more time. Because our subconscious holds back because it thinks that everything out of the comfort zone is going to kill us. Let's just face it. That's what it thinks. Talking to people will kill me. Saying things loudly will kill me. Our brain has to be taught new things. And so be willing to get out of that comfort zone just a little bit. Not a lot of it, just a little bit. So let's try it one more time and get out into your 100%. Cool? That was wimpy. We'll see. I'll play at 100%. You play at 100%. Okay, did you stretch that time? Awesome. 6 of you did. Excellent. Okay, so we'll see. We still have some time together. We'll see what you decide to do. Because I am going to be willing to give you everything I can in the time that I'm here. So let's start with your fill in the blank. Does anybody need a writing utensil? Could you grab some writing utensils for me? Somebody? Thank you. Okay, we'll get some for you right now. You are welcome. And what I'm going to do is on part number 2, I am going to read 2 of the answers, and when you've got them filled in, you say, got it, and I'll know it's time to go on. Got it? Got it. Awesome. Okay, who needs a pen? Raise your hand if you need a pen. Right here. Okay, excellent. So reading body language is a skill to find answers and solutions. To begin reading body language, I must remove judgment and see movements as indicators. When I see movement, the next step is to ask good questions. Okay, so if you see somebody standing like this, what does it mean? They're closed off. What else could it mean? They're bored, they're cold, they're thinking. Go ahead, just try. They're praying. Excellent. So how are you going to know which one it is? Ask what? A good question. So is this a good question? Why are you so closed? Okay, that would be an ungood question, because an ungood question breaks rapport and pushes people away. A good question increases rapport and increases connection. So if I ask somebody instead a question like, is it cold in here to you? Would that be a good question? Yeah, because then they're going to either say yes or no, and I'm going to know, are they folding their arms because they're cold? Maybe they spilled something on their shirt at breakfast, and so they're covering that up. You don't know. But if we judge people, we will push them away. Now, I'm gonna belabor this point just a little bit, because I have heard of people who have come to body language classes and then they ran out and started calling up their neighbors and saying, I've seen you do this in your body language and you're not supposed to do that. Do you think that that would be a miscommunication or a communication? A miscommunication. We aren't going to use body language to judge everybody around us. We're not going to go home and say, all right, kids, stop doing this, or husband, I saw you do this. This is, we apply it to ourselves first, and we practice asking good questions. This is, people ask me all the time, so Anne, how did you become a body language expert? Because I've put the 10,000 hours in to be able to understand and read what I'm seeing in people's body language. But the reason I became as good as I am is because I practiced asking questions. I didn't stop everybody and say, I watched this in your body language. I just asked them a question. And when I could ask those questions, it taught me to understand what I was seeing in the body language. So asking good questions is a powerful tool. It's powerful. In fact, in our world, since our topic today is building relationships, let me just tell you a quick story. First let me tell you this part. When we ask questions, it opens somebody's subconscious to find an answer. Brains have a hard time rejecting questions. Our brain will reject statements pretty easy. Like if somebody ever says to you, you know what? You look awesome today. Are we good at rejecting that? Oh yeah, we can reject that all the day long. But if somebody asked you instead, how come you look so awesome today? Your brain goes, wait, I can't reject that. I need an answer. And we actually will absorb things better that are put in questions. The problem comes up is if we ask the wrong kind of question. So having 4 boys, I shop frequently at warehouse stores where you can get lots of food in your cart quickly because it seems to disappear quickly at my house. And one day I was at Costco and I was walking down I was walking down, filling my cart, and I saw this mom with a boy that was probably about 9, 10 years old, and he was pushing the shopping cart for her. And when I looked at this, I was like, aw, cave painting, this is so cute. Because here's this mom, she's going down the aisles, and she stops, and she picks something off the shelf, and then she turns, and she puts it in the basket. And then she moves on up, and so the son would see her move on up, so he'd move on up, and then she's looking, so he's looking at things, and then she moves on, and then he would not notice for a minute, and then he would hurry and catch up, and she'd put the next thing in the cart. And so in my mind, I'm going, aw. Here, that's kind of a fun sound. Do it with me. Aw. It was just fun. But here was what popped my bubble. Was as they're walking down the aisle, I noticed the mom picked something up, and she turned, and he wasn't there yet. And he caught up, and she put it in. She went to the next thing, and she pulled something off the shelf, and he wasn't there yet. And you could tell she was getting annoyed because he wasn't right there. A little 9-year-old just wanting to look at the shelves. And so the next time he wasn't right there when she wanted to put something in the cart, when he got to her, she grabbed the cart, pulled it, and she goes, "Why are you always so slow?" And I was like, oh, it's time for a seminar in Costco. Let me pull out my paper. Because when she asked him that question, his brain went to look for an answer. Why am I always so slow? I'll think of an answer. And evidence of what is proof of that program. Because here's what's going on in your brain, you guys. Your subconscious has programs in it, and it will do anything and everything to build evidence of those programs. Because the more evidence our subconscious has of those programs, the more comfortable and safe it feels. Your subconscious wants you to be safe and to have comfort. That's the two prime directives of your subconscious, is to keep you safe and comfortable. Now, is it true that this boy is always so slow? Because there's a definitive in it, an always, and there can never be always. Okay, never mind, you didn't catch that one. We got to be careful with superlatives. Careful with those kinds of words. So if I say, is it true this boy is always so slow? No. But his brain now looked for proof that that is a true program. And his brain now takes that on as a program to live his comfort zone by. Okay, I'm going kind of deep here. Is this all right? You ready for it? Okay. So our subconscious is going to install a program and then look for evidence of the program. It does not look if that program is actually true. It looks for evidence to say that it is true. Okay? So let's go to your stick figure there under part 3 for a minute. Let's go there. Because inside of your head, you have a conscious and a subconscious. Is that true? Yes. Did you bring both of them with you? Yes. Ooh, you are smart people. Your subconscious and your conscious handle different amounts of information. Which one do you think handles more? Subconscious. How much more? A lot more. Good guess. A lot more. Excellent guess. Well, let's say it this way. Studies show that your conscious mind can process between 20 and 40 pieces of information every single second. Every single second, our brain is processing that much information. In that same amount of time, what do you think the subconscious does? 40,000. Excellent guess. Any other guesses? Come on, guess. Excellent guesses. Okay. Your subconscious in that same amount of time will process 40 million pieces of information.
That's close.
You were. You were in the thousands. You were really close. So the thing is, in order to process that immense amount of information, your subconscious behaves much like your computer. A computer, in order to process information, has to have what? Programs. Processors hold programs. And that's what it's called, a processor. I'm glad you brought up that word, because it's processing the data that comes in. And it's spitting out usable information. Well, depending on your computer, so at my house there's the war between the PCs and the Macintosh. Anybody else have that war at their house? I have a Macintosh, everybody else has Surfaces. So there's this war between, well, who does it better? Well, it isn't necessarily better, but when you open each computer, they give you different information. There's different visuals. There's different processing that's happened on each of these computers. And so, just like with a computer, there isn't necessarily a right and a wrong. Our brain has programs in it to process this vast amount of information. But your programs aren't going to be the same as your programs. Your programs will be different than your programs. Everybody has different programs. And the reason they're different is because everybody has different paths. The majority of the programs in our subconscious are placed there between the ages of 0 and 11 years old. So if you have a program from when you were 7 years old making decisions in your business as an adult, do you think you could use an upgrade? What if you have a program from when you were 4 that's making decisions in your marriage? Could you use an upgrade? Or, you know that one program from when you were 9 that's making decisions in your finances as an adult? Could that be a problem? Absolutely. We need upgrades to our programs. This little 9-year-old that I saw in Costco, do you think he'll ever need an upgrade to the program that says he's always slow? Absolutely. We need upgrades because our subconscious is running these programs. And all it checks in on is, does the program keep me safe and is it comfortable? Nowhere did I say your subconscious checks to see if the program will help you achieve your goals. Dang it. Nowhere does the program have to make you achieve better relationships or a better bank account or a better car, or a better house, or a better life, or a better anything. All it cares is, does the program kill me? No. Is it familiar? Because familiar is comfortable. Then I will defend the program. Do you hear those words? Our subconscious will defend the program. And the way it defends that program is it makes sure that everybody around you can tell what your programs are so that they can treat you according to your programs. So let me explain that by I'll leave this one. This is going to be the answers to the fill in the blank on part number 3. So one of the things that your subconscious is doing is when you are talking to somebody, your subconscious will choose the words before you speak them. And your subconscious, on average, will pick out 650 words every minute for you to speak. Now, where did it get those 650 words? From your programs. Okay, you are talking to this person. You have these programs, and we probably don't even know what all the programs are as we're talking to that person, but our subconscious does, and it's like, I got your back. I'll take care of you. Here's the words you should speak based on these programs. Well, most people cannot speak 650 words a minute. In fact, on average, we speak 150 words a minute. So these 650 words have to get filtered down to 150 words. We got to take these and we got to get rid of, how many did we get rid of? How many? We got rid of these extra words. We got rid of them. So 500 words got held back. How did we choose which ones to speak? Based on who's sitting around us, whether it's politically correct, whether there's kids in the back seat when that guy cuts me off on the freeway. You know, there's ways that we choose our words. Do you wish some people would choose their words more carefully? That would be nice, right? But on average, we speak 150 words and 500 words got held back. But our subconscious chose those words based on the programs. So what happens to the other 500 words? They show up in our body language. Because our subconscious does this. It says, oh, I see you could only speak 150 words, but I need the whole message to go out. So I'll help you out, and I'll send the rest of the message out in your body language. This is where my response was, no! There was a reason I didn't say those words. And you're saying I'm saying them anyway? Yeah. We send the message anyway. Our subconscious sends the rest of the message out in our body language. Now, is that good news or bad news? Okay, good. I'm glad I heard those comments there. It might be both. Because what it is an opportunity for new results. Because it's an opportunity for new behavior. Because, now here it's time to play with me again for just a minute. Everybody, hold your breath. Now, tell your heart to stop beating. Okay, it didn't work, you can breathe again. There are some things that I can take conscious control over away from my subconscious, and some things that I cannot. Like, I can't tell the blood in my arm to stop moving. It's not working. Nope. I can't take that function over from my subconscious. But I can start to push something away and stop my hand and say, I want to receive instead. I can override my body language. But just like you're breathing, if I tell you to start counting how many breaths you're taking in a minute, you'll become very conscious of your breathing. And some of you, when I said that, stopped breathing, and some of you started looking at your breathing. But now we're all focused on our breathing. I mean, no matter what we're talking about right now, everybody's like, I do breathe. I am a human. Okay, I do have to remember to take a breath once in a while. But if I stop talking about breathing and I turn our focus to another area, it won't take very long before your subconscious starts doing the breathing for you again. That's a good thing, right? We like that? Well, our subconscious also runs our body language until I consciously override it. Now, when I consciously override it, remember when I had you consciously, I said, fold your arms. Your subconscious decided which arm went on top. But then I had you consciously override it and pick a different arm to go on top. And it felt awkward, uncomfortable, different. You felt the dissonance because here's what was going on. In that moment that you overwrote your body language, you overrided, what is the right word there? Overwrote, past tense of override. In that moment, you sent a different signal back to your subconscious. And your subconscious went, that doesn't match the program we run. The program, because some of the programs are very definitive for our results, others are simply, which way do we fold our arms? And in that moment, your brain went, this doesn't match our program. This doesn't match. and we felt the dissonance. That moment of dissonance is an opportunity to choose new behavior. Now, the reason why this one's a big deal to me is because back when I was in 6th grade, I showed up at school one day and the teacher said, "Everybody sit down and fold your arms." And I was like, "I'm not in kindergarten, you can't tell me what to do." So I sat down and she saw that people were not following the directions. So she explained, "The reason you're folding your arms is I'm going to divide the class into 2 groups. And the way I'm going to do it is by those who have left arm over right will be on this side, and those who have right arm over left will be on this side." And I was like, "Oh, okay, I can do that." And I'm like, "We're going to be in teams, huh?" So I'm a 6th grade girl. Which team do I want to be on? The one with the cute boy in the class. Okay, because it was going to be boys and girls on each team, because it wasn't going to be all boys fold their arms left over right and all girls right over left. And so I'm like, I want to be in the same group as the cute boy in the class. So I look over at the cute boy in the class, and he's folding his arms different than me. And I'm like, "No, we're going to be on different teams." And so she's going down the rows, and I'm like, okay, when she's not looking, I'm going to change my arms so I can be on the same team as cute boy in the class. And so she looked away to write a name on the board, and I quickly changed my arms. And I was like, "Wait a second, arms? I told you to change." And it folded back with the same arm on top. And I was like, "No, we're still going to be on different teams." Okay, I have another chance. She's going to turn to the blackboard, and as soon as she turns to the blackboard, I'm going to change my arms. This time more slowly. So, and I still remember, it was Mrs. Carter. Mrs. Carter turned her back to the blackboard to write on it, and I slowly changed and put the other arm on top. And I was like, "No, that's not what I said." And she turns and she looks at me and she wrote my name on the other side of the board. Well, now the only thing I could think of all day long was, why wouldn't my arms fold the way I told them to? So I remember I went home after school and I sat in my room in front of my mirror and I'm like, how do arms work? And I sat there and I'm like, okay. And I tried so hard and it kept being left over right. And I'm like, there has to be a way around this. And so I was like, okay, you slide your arm up here. I'm going to slide this arm until I finally got my arms to fold the other way. And it felt like this. I was like, oh, this is awful. But I'm like, I'm going to do it. Because what happens if I go back to class tomorrow and Mrs. Carter said I'm going to divide the class again? I wanted to be able to fold my arms right. So I sat there and I practiced over and over and over and over again until it became just as comfortable to fold my arms right over left as left over right. Both of them feel equally comfortable. But I had to teach my brain a new program. And now listen to this is an important piece. When I teach my brain an upgraded program, it will now defend the new program. So look what just happened. Our body language now became the upgrade opportunity for our programming. Your body language is now the upgrade to the programming. Because here's the thing. So I have 30 people that I personally mentor, and I currently have 2 that just finished up. So I have 2 openings in my personal mentoring. But in my personal mentoring, I have 3 different real estate agents or real estate brokers that I mentor. And it was interesting because last week I went and taught a body language class to a broker's office. He had me come in and teach all of his agents about body language. And I was telling him, when I met with this one broker, she was having a really hard time, I'm just going to call it emotionally, because one of her best people had just quit. And it was a messy break from the company, and she'd left and she'd said mean things, and it was really hard, because you guys have experienced messy breaks with people before, whether it's somebody you were dating or somebody that was an employee or somebody in a company Sometimes they aren't amiable. Guys, you guys make me think of big words. Don't ask me how to spell any of them, but because you can graduate from college and not know how to spell, just so you know. But it wasn't a very good break. And she says, ever since she left, my results in the company are lower. And I was like, okay, here's the problem. The emotional burden amplified one of the programs in your subconscious. Okay, this is something I usually only tell people I group mentor. Are you guys okay with this? Yes. Are you learning something? Yes. Okay. Those programs get amplified by emotions. Emotions will amplify them, and they'll make the program feel even more true. And so she has this emotional experience that is now emotional evidence of a program in her. And so one of the things that I taught her was how to go responsibly get rid of that emotion that was clinging to her. Because when somebody hurts us, we feel different emotions. Some people will feel resentment, some regret, some anger, some sadness. There'll be different emotions, but those emotions grip us and amplify our program. And remember, our subconscious is using our body language to teach people what our program is so that they will treat us according to our program. Because if they treat me according to my program, I get another notch of evidence that the program is true. Should I say that one more time? So our subconscious sends messages out through our body language to teach people what our programs are, so that people can treat us according to those programs. Because when they treat me according to that program, I now have more evidence that my program is real or true. It feels true. So I taught her how to go let go of those emotions so that it wasn't amplifying the message that was going out, so that she could send different messages out. And when she did, then her business picked back up again. Because she still had very talented people in her business, but because of the emotional amplification of her programs, it was sending misinformation out to people. And by misinformation, I mean her subconscious saw it as true, but it did not match the result that she wanted. Okay, did I just jump off the deep end too quickly? Are we good? Okay, so let me illustrate. For me, when I learned this, I paid attention to myself, and I noticed that when my kids would come home from school, they'd come in the garage door. And when they came in the door, I would say, kids, tell me about your day while I finish cooking dinner. Does that match? What am I doing? Pushing them away. But I'm saying, come here. Shouldn't they listen to my words? Or are they going to pay more attention to the body language? Which one is it? Body language. So here I am telling my kids, tell me about your day. And none of my kids want to talk to me after school. And I'm like, why? What's wrong? And I'm complaining to my husband. How come my kids won't talk to me after school? Why won't they tell me what's going on at school? And then I noticed I was doing this. And I was like, that is not what I want. And this was happening because I had a lot of emotion on my plate. Have you ever heard people say they have a lot on their plate? Well, what do we keep on our plate? We keep responsibilities, but we also keep emotions of how we feel about the responsibilities. So often when people say my plate is full, or I have a lot on my plate, or I'm overwhelmed, it's because there's too much emotion on the plate. We can get the emotion off and never change the responsibilities, and we'll feel like there's more room on our plate. So my plate was full. My plate was full. I was hiding in my house. I wasn't talking to anybody. I was taking as many responsibilities off my plate as possible, and my plate still felt full. So when I met my kids at the door, my subconscious sent the message, my plate is full. There's no room for you to talk to me because my plate is full. So the kids would all go play, and I'd be cooking dinner going, my kids won't talk to me. So I'm like, I want a new program. And the new program is that I have room for my kids on my plate. I don't care what you have to get rid of, subconscious, on the plate. New program is there's room for the kids. So the next day, kids come in the door, and I'm all ready. I'm like, kids, tell me. Oh, I'm like, really? Tell me about your day while I finish cooking dinner over here. And my brain goes, eh. And my kids go, what? And all of this dissonance was going on, because I'll have dissonance in my own brain, but also dissonance, somebody around me will feel the difference in the message I'm sending. So now my kids were like, huh. And they still didn't come talk to me yet, but they felt the difference. When we feel the difference, our subconscious now waits for the next moment to check in. Do you really want that change, or do you want to go back to old behavior? Because at the Master Your Influence class, we learn that there are two main ways that we get through our filter to upgrade a program. One is repetition, one is intensity. Intensity and repetition are what we need to upgrade those programs. So I had said to my subconscious one time, let's change the program. So now the next day, here was the next opportunity. I met the kids at the door, and this time it was a little easier to remember to use a pull body language instead of a push. And so I said, kids, tell me about your day. And this time there wasn't as much. It was, okay, she might mean that. And by the third day, I now had some of my kids sitting at the counter telling me about their day because I held to the new program. I held it. Because if I do it once and then the next time I go back to the old behavior, our subconscious goes, oh, phew, I thought you wanted an upgrade, but we're good. We can stay where we were at. But if the next day I'm like, no, I still want it, our subconscious goes, I think she wants an upgrade. So by the third day, the subconscious goes, yes, ma'am, installing the upgrade, ma'am. And now we begin to change the program. We change the program. All right, let's take a few questions because I see a few arms going on. Can you grab the microphone? Because no matter how loud you talk, they can't hear you in Georgia, okay? So we have to use the microphone. Can you please stand up and tell us your first name when you grab the microphone?
My name's Melissa.
Hi, Melissa.
Can you just give us an example of what that actually looked like in real life when you were making that upgrade with your children? Because I understand what you're saying, but I need more of an example to fully integrate it.
So this is exactly what I was doing.
But how? Like, did you stop while you were making dinner and make better eye contact? Or what were you actually doing to invite them in instead of pushing them away is what I'm asking.
So keep the microphone.
Okay.
So when they would come in the door, I noticed I literally was going like this.
Oh, really?
Literally.
Okay.
I'm showing you exactly what I was doing. I was pushing them away. In part one of your handout, if you look in the lower left-hand corner of your handout, do you see where it says 4 foundational moves? Those are the 4 main moves that we use with our hands. We'll push, we'll pull, we'll hold down, or we'll lift. And I was literally, when the kids would come in the door, I'd say, tell me about your day. I'd literally do this.
Oh.
So the next day I was like, well, I'm not going to do this. And so I changed it to this. Tell me about your day. I literally changed my hand.
That's all you did?
And when I say I did this, I actually did that.
Okay.
Because my brain was not cooperating. Remember the whole arms thing when I was 6th grade? I was like, oh, come on, this way.
Okay.
And so after a few days of that, my kids were like, oh, I think she does want us to come with her to the kitchen instead of go somewhere else.
Okay.
And so that's a great question because we often don't realize what we're doing in our body language. I had no idea I had been doing that until I started paying attention, and I was like, that's not what I want to do with my hands. And so I had to choose new this way.
Okay,
But,
thank you.
okay, so while you have the microphone, does anybody else want to know anything about interacting with children? Does anybody want to know that? All right, so I'm just going to give you one more piece really quick because you asked, did I make better eye contact? One other thing that we do with our kids that we don't realize, have you ever had a kid or a grandkid come up to you and they keep pulling you and they're like saying your name and you're looking at them saying what and they keep doing it? Well, our kids actually are shorter than us. You ever notice that? So they actually pay more attention to our feet. And so if they're pulling on me and I'm looking at them, they don't see that they have my attention. But if I turn my feet towards them, they now see that they have my attention. And then they'll be like, oh, and they'll talk to us. So if you're having someone who you feel like you're giving attention to and they're not feeling it, turn your feet towards them. I mean, it's also cool if you can get down on their level a little bit, but even just changing the direction of your feet now helps them see, I do have her attention.
Okay, that's good. Thank you.
Cool?
Yeah.
All right, round of applause for Melissa. Okay, any other questions? Okay, right here. You bring the microphone, please. And stand
Thank
up
you.
and tell us your first name.
My name is Dan,
Hi, Dan.
and my question is, with the examples that you had in switching programs, sometimes it seems like it would be advantageous to keep the old program and the new program. So will the brain defend both old and new programs?
If you're giving it, hang on, if you're giving it two different reasons to have two different programs. Because if you're keeping two programs for the same exact thing and don't make a distinction, then your brain will be like, why? I don't need two of them.
Isn't there a time when you can want the program to run one way in one situation and another way in another situation?
So let me give you an example, because you're going down the right path. We just need to put the same language around it.
Okay.
So for example, I realized early on that this is my description, that I seemed to have a bucket in my brain that was labeled things that scare me. And anything that scared me, I dumped it into the bucket. But I realized that some things that scare me could kill me. And so my program was anything that scares me could kill me. Avoid it at all costs. And so I tried to avoid everything that was scary. But I realized I needed an upgraded program. Well, if all I did was rip the label off the bucket and say things that are scary won't kill me, that's not true. So I sometimes needed a program that said things that are scary can kill me, but I also needed another one that said things that are scary could grow me. So I had to separate it out. So what I did mentally was I created another bucket. Instead of relabeling this one, I created another bucket and labeled it things that are scary that could grow me, and this one stayed things that are scary that could kill me. And so now what I did was expanded my programming. So I didn't get rid of the old program, I expanded into an opportunity for a new program. Does that make sense?
It does, but it's still not enough clarification for me.
So give me an example.
An example is, I work with a group of real estate investors, and one of the things that we did together was go skydiving.
Mm-hmm.
Skydiving could kill you.
Especially if you don't have a parachute.
If the parachute does not open, I mean, there are things, and you have to go through a training program that says, and they tell you this could kill you.
Yep.
Okay, so it's an activity that could kill you, but at the same time, it could grow you by overcoming your fears, because most of the time, you're going to be safe.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what do you do in that kind of situation? Where are you going to plug that in? I chose to go skydiving.
So the way I plug it in, because I did the same thing, on the day my son turned 18, we surprised him with skydiving, and we went on his 18th birthday. And so I hear what you're saying. And in that moment, there is a chance that you could die. But there's a 99.9% chance that you won't. So you have to choose which bucket am I going to operate on today. I'm not going to completely get rid of this program. I know that it serves me sometimes, but today it's a choice. Which one am I going to go with? And so I'm not rejecting the program, I'm choosing between them because I've offered myself both options.
So you're saying there are two different programs instead of running the same program for different options?
Yeah.
Okay.
You upgrade the program, you add additional functionality to the programming.
Okay, thank you.
Excellent question. Big round of applause for Dan. And right here.
I'm Scott.
Hi, Scott.
Two questions.
Can you hold it a little closer? There you go.
Two questions. Number one, you are using a whole lot of hand gestures and movements.
Yeah, because wouldn't it be weird if I stood up here like this?
No, but that's my comfort zone. And so what are you encouraging about that? And the second question's a little harder to answer, and that is, how do we recognize those programs? 650 words, 500 get thrown out without me even realizing it. How do we look at those programs or list them or consider them so that we can reprogram?
So those are both actually very connected questions, so I'm going to answer them together, if that's okay. Would that be all right?
Sure.
Anybody else want to know the answer to Scott's question there? Yes. All right, so I'm going to let Scott sit down because this is a longer answer, but can we give him a round of applause for that question? So when I first started doing body language trainings, now let's understand, I have done 3,357 presentations. So I've done a couple of them, okay? And when I first started doing body language presentations, I had no clue what to do with my body language. And so I remember one of my first classes, I went up and I held my hands down to my side. And the whole time I just kept my arms right here. And I remember there were 70 people in this class. And I remember there was a girl that's sitting right about here. And she raised her hand and she goes, "Do you have good body language?" And I'm like, "Yes." Because I had no idea what to do with my body language. So I just taught the class like this. And it looked really awkward. Now, when it comes to hands, there's a neutral position for hands. And neutral position is actually just down to our sides. But it doesn't mean hold them there. It means use your gestures, and then when you return them somewhere, return them here. Because most of the time, people will tell me, "Oh, well, I do this because it's more comfortable." Or I put my hands in my pockets because it's more comfortable. Not girl clothes, though. Girls don't have real pockets. They're pretend pockets. Anybody ever notice that? My son and I were saying the other day we should start a clothing line for women that says pockets that work. That would be a great clothing line. But people will shove their hands in their pockets. They'll put them behind them. Anytime you close your hands in front of you, it's called a gate. So they'll gate their hands in some way in front of them. And they say it's because it's comfortable. So they'll gesture, and then they'll gesture, and they'll put their hands away like this. But neutral is actually down to our sides. Now, the thing is, so many people, probably 8 out of 10 people will say, "Oh, I can't put my hands there. That feels weird. I'll look weird." That's what they'll say. But it doesn't look weird. It feels weird. If you don't believe me, go watch a movie, and the people who are the main characters, if they're not doing anything in the scene, watch where they put their hands. Most of the time, unless their character, it doesn't match their character, their hands will be down to their side. Doesn't mean they'll leave them there. They'll then use their hands for whatever, and then they'll put them away. It doesn't mean we have to be super Italian grandma, all of us, with our body language, but it does mean be willing to see what messages we're sending with our body language. So this is how it links to the other half of your question. So remember how I showed you part 1, that lower left corner where it says 4 foundational moves? These are the 4 main moves you'll see with people's hands. Now, there'll be lots of variations. When somebody pushes something away, they may push it this way, or they'll even brush it off their leg or their arm. A really fast way to see this is just to give somebody a compliment. When you give somebody a compliment, how do they respond? Oh, thank you. And they'll throw it away as they said thank you. I remember I just did a test on this one week. I was like, I just want to see. And I gave so many compliments because I wanted to watch and see how people would respond. And I saw a lot of this. Thank you. You know, a lot. There was also those people that would be like, oh, and they would explain it away. Oh, this, I got it at the DI. Or, you know, they'll explain it away. But the thank yous are what I was watching for. People would say thank you, and they would close their eyes while they did it. Or they'd say, which is also a push away. Or they'd brush it off. They'd suddenly have to brush their leg or their arm off. Their leg or their arm off. I'll get this straight. Or I even had this one, I gave her a compliment, and she goes, oh, thank you. And I was like, so glad you got rid of that compliment. Ugh. But people, we have these programs that say, okay, I'll go just a little deep on this one. We have these programs that say, if I receive a compliment from somebody, I will appear prideful. Or at an even deeper subconscious level, we'll have this program that says, if I receive something from someone, it means they have less. And I don't want them to have less. So I'm going to reject this compliment so that they don't lose something. But do you give people compliments hoping that they'll reject them? That's why we give them compliments, right? Oh, I sure hope they don't take this compliment. That would just be awful. No, we give people compliments because we want them to receive it. In fact, recently I went down to Universal Studios with my kids, and I was wearing this sequin baseball cap, had all these gems on it. So it was really flashy, and people noticed it. So I happened to get lots of comments on my hat. And I remember I was walking into this one building, and this lady comes walking clear across from where she was to intercept me, to tell me, I love your hat. And I turned around to her and I said, oh, thank you. And she does this. She goes, you're welcome. Oh. It was like she was waiting for me to reject the compliment. And when I didn't, it was like, wow. That felt so good to have somebody receive my compliment. And her shoulders went up and her chin went up, and it was like, oh. Yeah, I wished I'd had that on video. It was so classic. It was just like, wow, I didn't know people actually received compliments. And so people, most of the time, will push things away, or they'll push them down. They'll hold them down. And one of the things that happens, well, where's a good place to see people pushed down? Where do you think? School. Go to school. On the first day of school, there's a lot of this going on. Sit down, be quiet, don't touch your neighbor. But if I stood up here and used this kind of body language during this class, because you asked, why am I using arms? Well, when you're in front of one person, your body language may be smaller than when you're in front of quite a few people. And also, when I know that it's also being broadcast online, requires a slightly different level of body language. If I stood up here and used this kind of body language, what would that feel like? Yeah, you can actually feel it. So I'm an engineer, and I took some electrical engineering classes. And in electrical engineering, they taught us that electricity, if you want to know how it behaves, look at how water behaves. Electricity and water, energy and water behave much the same way. If you put a stone in water, it ripples out. If you put a stone in energy, it ripples out. It's different concept. They have capacitors and resistors to do that, but it will cause a ripple in the energy. Well, Einstein also showed us that everything is made out of energy. Everything. And airplanes show us that air is actually a something, because airplanes can sit on top of that air. So air is also an energy. So when I move my body language through this energy, it actually sends ripples out that people feel. You will feel it. Have you ever walked in the house and you knew somebody was upset and you haven't even seen them yet? You're feeling that energy come and meet you. Well, in body language, if I do this to the energy in the room, you feel the difference. than if I did this kind of movement. So I use body language to have upward kind of energy instead of squashing people down. Here, play with me really quick. Do it with me. Push your hands down. Push down. Okay? So all you're doing is pushing the energy down. Now all I want you to do, keep the same exact motion and just turn your palms upward. Do you feel the difference? What happened? It felt lighter. But you didn't change anything. You didn't change the weight of your hands, and it suddenly feels different. Different program, different message that we're sending out. Exactly. So when you asked, how do we know our programs, this is why I'm teaching you body language. When you start paying attention to your body language and notice that there's some things you push away, or you use this kind of body language. My husband, who's a corporate business consultant, he was consulting a very large company back east. And when he got there, they said one of the things he has to do is decide who stays and who goes and how to reorganize the company. And when he came in, they said, we can't stand the manager of this facility. You have got to get rid of him. Well, my husband doesn't just go in and just get rid of people. He's like, okay, I'm going to find out what's going on. So he started job shadowing him. And he watched him, and he said, we'll call him Brian. So Brian, whenever he went to talk to anybody, he'd talk to him like this. All right, what is going on here? Have you gotten your stuff done? What about this? You guys need to get this done. And this is how he talked to everybody. This was his comfort zone of body language. So my husband was in his office, and he said, would you be willing to try a piece of body language? One piece. And he's like, oh, I'm skeptical, but okay, I'll try it. And so Brian's like, what do you want me to do? And my husband said, well, all I want you to do is when you're talking to people, turn your palm up instead of down. And Brian's like, are you serious? And my husband's like, just try it. Just try it. And he's like, all right. So they went out for the afternoon, and my husband's still job shadowing him. And Brian goes up to the first group of people, and he starts to do this, and he goes. And my husband's like, you can do it. So he starts talking like this. And he remembers a couple of times. Then he goes to another group, and he's like, and he looks at my husband again. And my husband's like, yeah, keep going. And so he talks like this. By the next day, my husband had a bunch of people coming to him and going, what have you done to Brian? You fixed him. He's awesome. We can keep him now. And my husband's like, it has a difference in the message it sends. So pay attention to yourself. If you're somebody who pushes down a lot or pushes away a lot, try upgrading by changing to a pull motion or a lift instead of a push down. Or don't move them at all. That is level 1. But then you want to start to move them, and then you pay attention to how you're moving them. Because your body language is a key piece to what's going on up here. This is why I love being a body language expert, because I choose to use my ability as a body language expert to help people access more of their amazingness. I'm not here to judge people. I'm here to help people know how to upgrade themselves, how to go to the next level. So with your hands, if we're pushing things away, the other thing to remember is our subconscious is not differentiating and saying, okay, I'm just going to push away this one compliment. It reinforces the program that says, I don't want to take things away from other people. I don't want to receive because it looks conceited. And now it doesn't just push the compliment away, it can push promotions away. It can push job opportunities. It can push connections in business. It can push all these kinds of opportunities away because it isn't just the compliment that's going away. So if you want to learn to receive more in your life, whether it be relationships, money, opportunities, whatever it is, start with something as simple as a compliment. The next time somebody gives you a compliment, instead of just thank you, actually scoop the compliment up in front of you and place it in your heart. Here, try it with me. And then you can add the words and the voice tone and go, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so everybody try it together. Ready? Thank you. Ooh, did you feel that? It was different energy. I've heard that a couple of times, but it doesn't look that way. It doesn't look that way. He said he's afraid that looks feminine, but it doesn't. I've seen lots of big, burly guys do that, and it does not look feminine. If you went like this, oh, thank you, that would look feminine. But guys, they just go, thanks. That doesn't look feminine. You can adjust it to your way of doing it. So if I stood up here and just went, thanks, that can look more masculine. Feminine can be a little more flowy, but it's the same kind of body language, receiving instead of pushing it away. If you're willing to do that, you are willing to upgrade your program. It changes the program. Cool? All right, awesome. Well, we got to go to the next piece. So let's give a big round of applause to all of those questions that we had. And now I need some volunteers. Who would want to be a volunteer? Okay, so let me help you with your own programming for a second. May I do that? Some of us have programs that say, I don't want to push out. In elementary school, when I raised my hand, I said something wrong, and then everybody laughed at me, and we go, I'm going to ask yours. And some of you were like, oh, no. But no. What's your name? Laurie. Come on up here, Laurie. And right here, what's your name? Dale. Dale. Let's have Laurie and Dale come on up. Okay, and who else wanted to be a volunteer? Because I'm going to need 2 girls and 2 boys. Yep, girls on this side, boys on this side. So let's do this. Let's go right here in the purple shirt, and then let's go right here. What's your name? Freeman and Vicky. You got to come up here, though, Freeman. All right, big round of applause to all these volunteers. Okay, so come up to the front a little bit. I'll step off the stage so you guys have more room. So now come up to the front a little bit. Now I have a sampling of the human race right here. I've got 2 girls, I've got 2 guys. Aren't they awesome? Aren't you impressed that they would be brave and have all of you stare at them? They're like, good job, love it. Okay, so here they are, and so I want to see what you know about body language. And I'm going to watch how we respond to this to decide what level to teach you this next piece at. Because as I was thinking about relationships, I realized there's things that we do to push people away. There's things that we do to bring people towards us, but then there's things that we do out of defensiveness that actually cause other people to step into the offensive. Did that make sense? Half of you quit breathing on that one, so let me say it again. I realized for me, I told you I would get in arguments with people at school. I'd get in arguments with the teachers or the parents, and I couldn't figure out why, because I was trying to be very nice. But what I realized was I had defensive body language. And when we are defensive, somebody will look at us and think, well, why are they being defensive? I guess I should be offensive here. I should step up my game. They don't consciously recognize it, and it causes a spiral that can cause contention. And so I can teach you some pieces about that. But I'm going to watch how we're absorbing what I'm teaching. Cool?
Cool.
2 people on that one. Cool? Cool? All right, awesome. Okay, so tell us your name again. Vicky and Laurie and Dale and Freeman. Okay, here are our beautiful volunteers. What do you see in somebody's body language when somebody feels weak? If they feel weak, what would you see in their body language? Slouched shoulders. Okay, so everybody slouch your shoulders. She's like, no, I wanted to do the other way. Okay, what else? So hold the shoulders slouched. What else would you see? Yeah, no eye contact. And don't smile. Okay, good. Vicki, you're smiling. You can still breathe. It's all right, but just not, yeah. Okay, there we go. All right, so fidget. Fidget could be in legs. Fidget can be in arms. Fidget can be in fingers. There can be fidgety or a lack of stillness that's going on. And so for our volunteers up here, I'm just going to have them do, let's have you do legs. Put your weight on one leg, okay? Because we got to have a still picture for a second. So even though it's fidgeting can be perceived in legs, it can also be perceived in hands or arms. So gate your arms some way, either fold them or hold them or behind you or stuffed in your pockets. Pick one of those that you want to do. All right, awesome. Okay, what else might you see in their body language if they feel weak? Yeah, don't make any eye contact with anybody. Look down, and it's usually not up, right? So the chin is usually down. Okay, so here's the thing. Let's pretend for a minute that you are business owners and you are picking a new employee. Are these the people that you would want to have represent your company? No. How come? Because they might not send a good impression. Why else? No, low confidence. It doesn't seem like they have confidence. Why else? Why would you not want them to represent your company? Because they don't perceive to be outgoing, and so they may not interact with the customers or the clients well. Well, you know, it's interesting because there was a study done at Harvard Business School where they were studying body language, but they didn't want the participants to know they were studying body language. So what they did was they had the guinea pigs come in, who were called freshmen, and they had these freshmen come in and they told them they were going to have a job interview. And they told them that before the job interview, they had to go to this little room and follow the directions that were on the screen. Now, on the screen, they were either given a weak pose like this, or I'll show you strong poses in a minute, and they were asked to hold the pose for 2 minutes. At the end of the 2 minutes, they were then taken in for their job interview. And the job interviewers chose to either hire them or not hire them for the study. It wasn't a real job interview, but they chose it for each of the participants. Would you hire this person or not? And what they found was so the interviewers did not know who had held the weak pose and who had held the strong pose. And what they found was those who had held this weak pose for 2 minutes before they went into their job interview, more of the time they were not chosen for the job. And those who held strong body language for 2 minutes before they went in for the interview were chosen for the job much more often, even though the interviewers had no idea which one it was. And it was totally random whether they were given a strong or a weak pose to hold for 2 minutes. 2 minutes. So it's interesting that we think that when we are interacting with somebody or having an interview, that the interview starts when we walk in the door. The interview starts with how we hold our body language before we walk in the door. So weak sends a weak message. Low confidence, low self-esteem, don't interact well with others. All of these messages come out in weak body language. So now, don't change everything at once, because that's our tendency, is to want to unravel really quickly. But I want to just check in with you guys really quick. How do you feel standing up here in this weak pose? Do you feel more or less energy than when you came up? Way less. So less energy. Yes? Freeman would like to change anytime now. Yeah, it doesn't feel, I'm glad that it isn't comfortable for you, that it's pushing against your program. But it's important for everybody out here to be able to see what weak body language looks like. Because if somebody feels strong, what might you see in their body language? Okay, so the first one I heard was shoulders back. So put your shoulders up. Don't undo everything. Okay, shoulders up. And then put your chin up, but don't smile yet. Now, keep your hands in your pockets still and your weight on one leg. Okay, now, do they look stronger just doing that? Yes. So the reason I'm showing you this is sometimes when people feel weak, they'll just do one of the pieces. They won't do all of them, but it's still part of the message gets sent out. Part of it does. Okay, so now put your weight on both legs. And put your hands down to your side and smile. Oh, wow, those are different people. Now if you're a business owner and you're looking for new employees, keep smiling. There you go. Would you want to hire these people over the other ones you had just seen? But they're the same people. What is the difference in the impression that they're giving you? Confidence. Positive energy. Okay, you can even make eye contact with people now if you want. They look capable. That's an important piece. What else? Self-assured. It changes the message that's being sent because they feel stronger. And because they stand stronger, they feel stronger. It is a cycle. It's a spiral that happens. So what if I then said, all right, now I want your best superhero stance. No, hold it. That was good. Just kidding. Come on. Okay, superhero poses. I want to see it. Try Spider-Man for me. He's super grandpa. There we go. All right, so now I'm going to ask for a different pose. Ready? Change. Awesome. Wait, are you seeing something different in the energy? Are you feeling something different from them? Now, this doesn't mean you want people to walk in with superhero poses to their interview. I'm here. That could look a little odd. However, what happens in the morning when we wake up and we look in the mirror first thing in the morning? Do we go in the bathroom, we turn on the light and look in the mirror and go, oh. And that's when we're starting our day. Hold your pose. There you go. That's when we're starting our day. What would happen if instead you went in, you turned on the light and you went, hey, I'm so glad you're in my mirror today. Let's go take on this day. Do you think that would change the energy of how you approached your day? Yes. Or how you approached your job interview? Absolutely. Okay, so as you guys are holding this pose, do you feel a difference in energy? Some of you are like, well, yeah, because you wouldn't hold it. You kept putting it away.
Reminds me of holding a bottle of water.
Did you have to do that?
No.
Oh, okay. We could change that. Okay, so this is an outward expression of what we want on the inside. So now just go back to neutral strong. Neutral strong. Okay, so smile, make eye contact. That's not a smile. There we go. Okay, so smile, make eye contact. It changes whether or not we feel strong or we feel weak. And whether we feel weak or strong changes based on the body language. So if I know what body language people use when they feel strong and I'm not feeling strong, I can use strong body language and I can start to upgrade my program. Does that make sense? Isn't that cool, you guys? How many of you had no idea you would learn that today? Good. I'm glad. Because if you put this into practice, you get a different result. Okay, so come up to the front of the stage. There you go. Because they won't bite. I've tested them. They don't bite. I've tried it. But our tendency is, the reason I'm telling you that is one of the things we do when we're feeling weak is we back up. Because the first thing I did when I had them come up on the stage was what? Move forward. And then where were they now? They were already back. Because that's our tendency, is we back off because it's comfortable to our subconscious. So now, all right, let's do this. I want 2 people to share with me what they're learning from what they're seeing up here. And that way I'll know if then the class can be ready to see this next piece that I want to share. So who would be willing to share what they're learning from what's going on? Okay, can you grab the microphones for me, please? You grab the microphone and bring it right up here, and bring that one right up here to Scott. Okay, Scott, stand up, tell us what you're learning.
I'm learning, first thing about body language is I am very ignorant. Not stupid, but very ignorant.
Yeah, and you can learn and apply new things. There's simple things that we can put into practice. So what are you going to use that you've learned?
Head up, shoulders back, a smile, and I'm not going to push away.
Awesome. I love it. Okay, round of applause for Scott. Okay, right over here.
I've been working on being much more aware of my language.
It's Melissa.
It's
by the way.
Melissa, yeah. And but I haven't been getting the results I wanted out of that. And I realized probably what I've been doing is while I've been saying the words that are more positive and that I want my brain to be receiving, I've been using body language that pushes all that away. So I'm not getting the results that I want. It never occurred to me that that's why I wasn't seeing any changes that I wanted.
I know. It's like, why don't we teach people this? Oh, wait, that's why I'm doing this. Because
So
we
thank
want
you.
to know those, right?
Yeah.
So what are you going to do, Melissa?
I'm going to work on more, thank you. And with my teenagers, yeah, I want to do more of this with them. So
Oh, yeah, it can be so easy to do this with
Yeah.
teenagers. Oh, teenagers. Oh,
yeah.
okay, teenagers.
Give me a minute, I
Yeah,
realize that
give
I
me
do
a
this
minute.
like, give me a minute. So I'm like, okay, give me just a minute and I'll be right there.
There's a reason why we have statements in English like talk to the hand, or I have a lot on my plate, or I'm on my last leg, or afternoon slump. Have you ever heard all of those? There's a reason for all of those. And afternoon slump has to do with gravity pulls down on us during the day, and it pulls down most on our shoulders and our chin. And so if several times during the day you remind yourself to pull your shoulders up and your chin just above level, we will change how it feels inside of us. We'll change and we'll what's the word? A pendulum.
Pendulum swing.
We'll swing. That word, I know that word. We will swing back to the positive side instead of staying on the lower energy.
Yeah.
We'll go to a higher energy. Excellent. Thank you, Melissa.
You're
Big round of applause for her. Okay, so I'm going to quickly go through just a couple of these pieces. And you can choose if this part isn't for you, that's totally fine. I would suggest that you be aware of these pieces, whether you choose to use them or not. So neutral position for feet is about shoulder width apart with weight on both legs. That's neutral position. All right, go ahead and keep them close for a minute. The problem is, put yours back close like you had them. The problem is when our weight is on, here, you play with me for a second. Put your weight on one leg, other leg. Okay. And you'll see this if you go watch my TED Talk. I teach you a story about how I helped my teenager who went to 4 different junior highs in 1 year, how I helped him adjust some of his body language. Because when our weight is on one leg, this sends the message to people that I'm easily knocked off balance. If my feet are really close together, it's the same message. So neutral position is actually feet shoulder width apart. So put them a little further apart. There you go. So shoulder width apart. So yours just an inch closer together. There you go.
Feels masculine to me, though.
But does she look masculine when she puts her feet that way? Does it improve confidence? Yes. It shows a difference in confidence. Because we could take, do you have somebody here who could take a picture of you? It doesn't look masculine, but we're going to go there just a second. Because neutral position is shoulder width apart. But when we feel judged, our tendency is to go a little wider than shoulder width apart. So now go a little bit wider. Now, do they look like they're in a ready stance? They're braced. They're braced. So that is what you're trying to avoid, but you're overcompensating by coming all the way in. And yeah, it's true. I can always tell dancers, because then they'll be poised like this, and it's like, oh, are you a dancer? Or they'll have their feet like this, and it's like, yeah, I am. How did you know? Just a guess. Because they'll do that with their feet. But I'm showing you the basics, and then you get to choose to implement them. It doesn't mean there's only one right way to put your feet. It doesn't mean that. Because we would all look like replicas of each other if we all stood exactly the same way. We still get to have our personality and our own flavor to us. But when we go to wider than shoulder width apart, now we've gone to defensive. And when you feel judged, one of the ways that you can lower your reaction is to recognize that you went to a defensive stance and pull it back to shoulder width. Because when you pull it back to shoulder width, it actually will lower your stress response to the judgment. And this is where I was going deeper. Are we okay? Now, hands, same thing. Neutral place for hands is down to our sides. When we feel judged, what will happen in our hands? We'll clench them. When we feel judged, watch your hands and see if you clenched them or clawed them or brought one of them up or grab your leg. Pay attention to what you did. So defensive, does that look more defensive to have their hands balled? Yeah. So another way to reduce the stress response, because people feel judged. It's a part of life. Most people don't go through an entire day without feeling judged somewhere. We just will. And so knowing how to pay attention, did I go into any kind of defensive stance for that defensiveness? If we don't ball our hands, often people will fold their arms. They'll go into a folded arm. So try folding your arms for me. Does that look more defensive? Yes. It can look more defensive. Now, arms folded can have lots of different meanings. Some of you have heard that we talk about that folding arms means thinking. Well, yes, if you're talking to somebody and they suddenly go like this, that's thinking. But if you're talking to someone and they're like this, that's defensive. They can be both ways. This is why I'm like, hey, we're going to take a deeper dive, and I'm watching how we respond to it. This one I know because this was my go-to response. And if you asked me why I was doing it, I would tell you because it's comfortable. But I felt weak around people. Before I even saw a person, I would be afraid they would judge me before I'd even gotten close enough to interact with them. So my arms would go folded. So when I first learned about body language, I wanted to learn to put my hands down to my side. And I would remind myself, hands down to my side. And then all of a sudden they'd be folded again. And I'm like, hands down to my side, folded. And I'm like, I swear I went around like this all day long. And people are like, are you okay? Yeah, I'm just reprogramming. It was so bad that my fingers would swell up because I didn't have enough blood vessels to pull the blood out of my fingers because they were so used to being up here instead of down here. So pay attention to defensiveness that we'll go into. Widening our stance, balling our fists, or folding our arms are the three that I'm going to show you. And if you're feeling judged, just check in with those 3 and make sure that you calm it down by neutralizing, going to neutral on those 3 pieces. The feet, the hands, okay, go to neutral now. The feet, the hands, and the arms. Just go to neutral. And then smile. Smiling always helps. There's been so many different studies done on smiling. I could quote you study after study. But what they found is, the basics of it, that when you smile, our stress response goes down. And what they found in the studies was, it doesn't even have to be a real smile. In one study, they had people put a chopstick between their teeth, and that still lowered the stress response. There's something about actually using these muscles to pull up the side of our face will lower stress response. So the legs, the feet, the hands, the arms, and then smile. Smile, there you go. When we do those, it can lower our defensiveness. And that's what we're wanting to know here, is how to increase and build rapport with people around us. So this piece I haven't taught all year here. And we're October. This is the 10th body language show in this room this year. And this is the only time I've taught that. Because I want you to have the opportunity to improve your interaction with people. Cool? All right, so these have been amazing volunteers. Can I give my volunteers a gift? Would that be okay? Let's give them a gift. Yes, and then we'll give them a round of applause here in a minute as well. Okay, give them a round of applause right now, and then... All right, so this one, if you guys already have one of these, feel free to pay it forward to somebody else. But these are the actual audio CDs wrapped in plastic. These aren't the audio downloads. These are the actual real physical things, which someday I think that these will be in museums because people don't have CD players in their cars anymore or their computers. But right now, these are the real deal, the real life thing. And so these audio principles that are right here, we call them mentoring principles, because we can work on our body language and it will change our programming. And we can change our programming and it will change our body language. It works both ways. So these work on the programming, which will upgrade the body language. Then we also work on the body language, it upgrades the programming. So we have a cycle that goes through. So this one for you is called Slay the Dragon. This is how to remove some of those emotional, the weight that's on our plate inside of our subconscious. Will you receive that? Thank you. You're welcome. This one right here is called the bucket list. You are such a great model. That's awesome. Good job. This one's called the bucket list. Remember when I was talking about separating the programs into 2 different buckets? I recorded a whole CD on that because it had such a powerful change on my life. This one is how to safely get out of your comfort zone. Not out of your safety zone, but out of your comfort zone. Would you receive that?
I would, thank you.
You're so welcome. Aw, thank you. This one right here, this is called Don't Dump Your Cup. The idea here is that when people give us compliments or different things like that, it starts to build up our energy, and yet what we sit and do is pour the cup out. And we keep emptying it and going, how come I don't have enough energy to do things? In here I talk about work-family balance. I talk about how to receive better. I talk about these kinds of things that build our energy in our life. Would you receive that one?
Gracefully, thank you.
Awesome. And then this one, vision boards, how to get the left and the right side of your brain working together for your results. This is vision boards have been around forever, and we have our own version of them. That's very simple and powerful. So would you receive that one?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Big round of applause for all of my volunteers. Thanks, you guys. Thank you. Awesome. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, so I want to know what you're taking away from this class today. What are you going to put into practice? What have you learned? What are your ahas? I want to hear what's going on or questions that you have. So questions or ahas, please raise your hand. Okay, so let's start right here on the second row right there, and right up here. There you go. The second from the back, and then the second from the front as well. There we go. Okay, tell us your name.
Hi, I'm Linda.
Hi, Linda.
This is really personal. I've been really struggling in my marriage. I'm feeling like my husband, that I'm last on his list, and that romantically, he's not interested. It doesn't seem to matter what I say or do. The problem persists. And I realize that I need to go home and look at my body language.
Wow.
That it's me, not him.
The thing is that we, as humans, we want to have an effect on people around us. But we don't realize that we have the most power on us. And when we adjust us, things around us then change. Linda, I'm so impressed. I'm so glad you're here today to get to learn these things. So what are you going to try?
I don't know. It's because it's going to be pretty deep work, I think.
But we can start simple. So can I give you a suggestion?
Oh, yeah.
Maybe. I don't have to.
Go, yeah.
So you learned a lot about body language. I'm going to teach you a way to change the program here as you're looking at your body language so that it can help work from both angles. Would that be okay?
Yes.
Because one of the things that I realized early on is I had a constant stream of thoughts that went through my head about what other people thought of me. What other people thought of me. Have you been to any of our classes before?
Yes.
And so you've heard the concept of building a mind of steel and reducing the negative comments in our heads. Well, one of the things that I personally had to do was I had to change the language in my head about what I thought other people thought about me. And so, because my husband and I, we've now been married for 25 years. When I first started learning this, we'd been married for 18 years, and it was a constant struggle. It was so hard. And the last 7 years have been so good in comparison. And I can link that to one of the main things that happened was I changed my thinking of what he thinks of me. So I would say all day long, my husband thinks I'm the best wife. My kids think I'm the best mom. My husband is glad to be married to me. I didn't say it out loud to him, but I said it to me. And it started to change what I was thinking, and that sent a different message out in my body language. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And so just add a few statements like that about the cool things he thinks about you. And that will help as you're looking at your body language. Will you do that?
Yes.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Big round of applause for Linda. Right here.
My name is Stacy. My question
Hi,
is,
Stacy.
hi. My question is, what do you do to help change your program when you start going into like fight or flight mode, or you're nervous or anxious or whatever? Because it feels like we can work on it all day and be conscious of it, and then we get into a difficult conversation with somebody or a presentation, and all of a sudden we can't focus on it anymore, and we go back into old modes. So what are your suggestions to help with that?
So do you want mentoring answer or do you want entry-level answer?
Mentoring.
Have you been to our classes before? No. So this is your first experience? Welcome.
Thanks.
I'm so glad you're here. So I had that question just yesterday from somebody I'm mentoring. And so that's, I have a very deep mentoring answer, or I have an entry-level answer. So that's why I asked. So I'm going to give you a combination. Would that be all right? Yeah. So to do that, I have to first explain to you scientifically what's going on in your brain in that moment. Because remember at the beginning of class, I said we have three main responses. We'll try to change ourselves in that moment. We'll try to change ourselves, or we will try to hide, which are both a flight response, or we'll want to retaliate, react in anger, which is a fight response. So the fight or flight, like you just mentioned. What's happening in that moment is when we step into fight or flight, our limbic system takes over, the limbic part of our brain, which what that does is shuts off our prefrontal cortex. And our prefrontal cortex is the part of our brain that we have that the lower animals don't have. It's the thinking part of the brain. So when that shuts off and the limbic system takes over, now we go into this fight or flight response. So the very first step that has to happen is we got to re-engage the prefrontal cortex. So what I would suggest, and this is so not a body language show answer, this is what I would teach in mentoring, is you come up with a word that you can say a whole bunch of times in your brain that pulls you back to conscious awareness. Because if I'm just, you know what the limbic system is? It's the emotional system of our body. And if I'm just responding out of emotion, can we get ourselves in trouble? Yeah, easily. So if I pull my brain back into focus, I now can make a choice instead of just reacting based on my old emotions. So for your answer here, I would suggest you come up with a word. The person I was mentoring yesterday, their word was strong. Strong. And I just said, okay, just say that 10 times in your head really fast. Strong, 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 strong. Because all of a sudden your brain goes, oh, I'm here in the moment. And I'm going to choose whether to respond in my emotion or not, instead of letting the emotion choose for me. That's the first, what would we call, interrupt that we need in that programming. Does that make sense? So pick a word, whatever that is, that you can use whenever you're feeling that response. You could use even the word judged, so that your brain goes, oh, I'm feeling judged. And it reminds you of what's going on. Because as soon as we're aware, the first step to change is always conscious awareness of what we're doing. Just like Scott said, he didn't realize what was going on in body language. So the first step is to realize, then we can make a new choice. Does that make sense? Now, when you come, are you coming to the Master Your Influence class? Okay, you haven't heard about that one? Okay. So at the Master Your Influence class, we talk about several different mentoring principles around this kind of thing that you're talking about. Because if we always react instead of choosing to act, now our results keep showing that we can't handle things. And we keep repeating that. Does that make sense? So will you do that? Will you go pick a word? And you can even come ask me more about it afterwards, and I'll show you some more pieces. Cool?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Big round of applause for Stacy. All right, excellent. I saw a couple of other hands. So right here.
What does it mean when somebody always smiles, even though they're feeling a horrible part of their life?
So some people have a different, so her question was, what does it mean when people are always smiling? Some people have a different stress response than others. My sister is one of those people. When she gets hurt, she laughs. And so people don't know she's hurt until they see blood coming out of her because she's laughing the whole time, because that's her stress response. So somebody who will smile all the time, it can be their stress response that they just are, pasting the smile on, and it never goes away. And so there's different things that it can mean, but number one is recognize just because somebody's always smiling doesn't mean they're feeling happy on the inside. It can mean that they're stressed, but they don't know how to show it a different way. Just like my sister, I'm trying to remember, something happened to her and she had to go to the hospital because she was hurt that bad, but nobody knew for about 10 minutes because she was laughing so hard. And then they finally realized that she had to go to the hospital because she was really, really hurt. And so just know that it doesn't, if it's always there, it probably doesn't mean what it is at surface value. Cool? You're welcome. And what was yours?
When do you know when to get a mentor? Do you go to a whole bunch of classes? Sorry. When do you know to get a mentor? I got introduced in June to 3 keys.
Welcome.
Thank you. Been to a few of the classes, signed up for a few classes. When do I get a mentor, or do I learn all the basics and then the mentor fixes the things, or?
So I've worked with people both ways. I've worked with people that have gone to the classes and got all of that, and then they realized they didn't know where to put all the pieces, then they got a mentor. I've also worked with people that are like, you know what, I don't have time for this. I need a shortcut, show me what I need. And so then they've come to work with me then. So it's more of a personal thing to decide. This is why I do group mentoring and personal mentoring, because sometimes people need the group mentoring to be able to see how all the things fit together, and then they go, oh, and now I need the individual attention. And some people are like, no, I need individual now because I've got places I've got to be. And so the faster you want to move is when you get the mentor, you will move faster. Does that help?
Thank you.
Excellent. Okay, big round of applause for all of those comments. Are you guys glad you came today? Yes. Do you know I do these again next month? You could come again. That would be fun, right? I even do group mentoring right here in this room, and my next group mentoring starts in November, which means it'll go November, December, January. 3 months over the holidays. Do you think that would be a good time to have support of a mentor on how to keep your thinking straight, how to work on your emotions, how to work on your body language? All of those pieces are very powerful. So if you're interested in my group mentoring, come talk to me after the class. Come talk to me, because I would love to help that be part of your life. And when people are at a body language show and they ask me about mentoring, I try to give them the best tuition, because I recognize that that's how your thinking is. I love that. I love to see people wanting to move forward. But I got to tell you one last thing before you go. When I left the Master Your Influence class, I thought, what am I going to do with my body language? What am I going to change? I was like, there's so many things to change, I don't know what to change. So I'm driving home, thinking about it. I pull in the garage, get out of the car. I'm walking in the house. I open the door, and all of my kids happen to be sitting in the family room. And I was like, oh, shoot, here's my chance. And I haven't decided what to do. So I'm like, I walk up to the door, and I go, hi, everyone, I'm home. And my kids are like, huh? And I'm like, no, I'm going to own this. And all of a sudden, my 13-year-old ran across the room and hugged me. They were so hungry for me to be open to them that they took this corny version of their mom standing in the doorway over the one that had been pushing them away. And so that's when I knew that I liked the new result. You don't have to put every single thing you've learned today into practice to get a different result. Pick something. Just pick something and try it. And watch for a new result. Watch for it. Because my kids matter so much to me. And I just didn't realize how much I had been closed to them. Like Melissa said, give me a minute. Pushing them away. And so even if it was messy and didn't look that great, standing in the doorway, completely silly, it made a difference. So be willing to feel awkward at first. Be willing to get out of that comfort zone, because the comfort zone will grow to include your new growth. Comfort zones are stretchy. And so when you step out of them and you stay there, your comfort zone now expands to include that new behavior. And then you step out of it a little more. So just increment by increment, you expand that comfort zone. And it gets bigger and bigger. And for me, my comfort zone includes people now. I'm sorry, but I used to not like people, and you were people, so I apologize. But now I've learned that people are amazing. And that is the one thing that I know universally from understanding body language, is how truly amazing people are and how much hurt people go through. Everybody has hurt in their life, every single person, which gives me a desire to be more patient with people, but it also gives me a desire to interact with them more. Because when we understand that about people, it gives us a chance to feel like we're not alone, that we have something to offer. Every one of you have amazingness in you. Every one of you. And so I'm so glad that you came to this class today. Take something you learned and put it into practice. It's why I do what I do. It isn't always easy for me to be the one. I'm often the first person that people meet in 3 key elements because I'm out there in the world. And sometimes people aren't nice. I mean, when I did my TED Talk, I didn't go read the comments for like months because I didn't want to know what people said. Because sometimes people aren't nice. But I do what I do because all the ones who need it, I want them to have it. So I've given you personal shortcuts. I've given you some deep things today that I've personally put into practice in my life. So take them. If you don't want to use them, that's fine. I'm totally fine with that. You can leave your hand out here and you can forget everything you've learned. But if you go and put at least one thing into practice and start looking for the new result, you'll notice that there's new results in your life. So I'd love to see you somewhere else in the world. I'd love to see you again. You can link to me on Facebook. I do Facebook Lives every Wednesday. I do these classes here every month. And would it be okay if I told you really quick about the Master Your Influence class? That'd be all right? Could you guys hand out those flyers for me? They have a flyer that they're going to pass out right here. This is the Master Your Influence class. And this is the manual you get when you come to the class. It's a 3-day class. Have you learned something in 2.5 hours? Well, if you come to 3 days of training with us, that's 24 hours of training. 24 hours. And when you come to this class, you come a little early the first day so that you can get your book and your name tag. Because at this class, it's held at the Salt Palace, and there's usually about 1,000 people in the class. So the name tag is so that if you get called to come up on stage and you can't remember your name, you can cheat and look at your name tag. Got it? So you come early, you get your book, you get your name tag. When you come in the room, you'll notice that we have screens up on both sides of the stage because we want everybody to have the best seat in the house. And you'll notice in this book, we have lots of words and pictures because we want to work with both sides of your brain. This is powerful information. Look at this one right here. This is where we talk about what each finger means. Each finger has a different message in body language. And if you notice that when you're talking to somebody, they keep rubbing one of their fingers, you know what area of their life that conversation is influencing, or who in their life has an influence over them. We'll also talk about eyes, because the directions you look, when somebody asks you a question, we will look somewhere before we answer. And if you know where somebody looked in their brain to find the answer, it can help you know what category or how to interact with them better. My 3rd grader, when he came home from school one time, watching his eyes helped me discover that he'd had a teacher at school tell him that he was the worst reader in this class. And he was not going to tell me because he was afraid I'd be mad at him for being stupid. And I was able to save him 20 years of therapy later on because I found that out early on. So it's not mind reading, but it is indicators. And when we know the indicators to watch for, we can take the shortcuts to get to where we want to go. So these are powerful things that happen in this class. Now the flyer right here, if you'll notice, it says 3-day training. How much is it? $227. Now my daughter is a sophomore in college now. And she just went to a class in Southern California, and it was only a 2-day class. And at that class, she paid nearly $1,800 to go to that class. And she came home and she's like, Mom, that didn't have as much information as Master Your Influence. And I'm like, I know, we tend to pour on the information because our mission is to give people information so that they can free their own mind, clear their own heart, and create what they can envision. We want people to be empowered that way. So when my husband signed me up for this class, the flyer said $750. But we've realized that's our mission, is to get this in more people's hands. And so we do our best to hold our costs down so that we can offer this to as many people as possible. You cannot go to any college in Utah and get 24 hours of training for $227. You won't. It doesn't mean that we're going to lower our standards. We will still teach an $1,800 class, but we want you there. I want to get past your chicken exits. So $227 for 3 days of training. No, I don't. Do I? Did you guys fill out Enter to Wins? Yes? Could I have that? I also have some more audio CDs up here that I would love to give away. Would anybody want them? Yes? Awesome. A couple of you. Good to know. Thank you so much. So these right here are your Enter to Wins. And it says, we have 30 people here. 30 people. So I have here a copy of, what have I got here? Okay, so here I have another copy of the Perfection is a Direction CD. Would anybody want it? Do you hope the person next to you wins so that you can be happy for them? All right, so the person for this one is, and if you've already received this, please feel free to pay this forward to somebody else. Perfection is a Direction is a CD that I recorded because there's a lot of people that don't realize that there's many different kinds of perfectionism. And if you don't think you're a perfectionist, listen to this CD so you can see if perfectionism is pulling down on you and you didn't know it because you didn't think you were a perfectionist. Powerful information in here about getting past our perfectionistic tendencies. And this goes to Lori Ralphs. Well, I only knew your first name. I didn't know you were Lori Ralphs. And that's for you. Would you?
Excited, and I will share.
Do I get another
lots of
hug?
my friends.
Yay.
Yes, and this Master of Influence, I've taken it twice. It is a jaw dropper, and I'm not kidding. It is amazing. And I've bought 6 things for my friends.
Wow.
It's really good. It's a
You'd
great
like
thing.
to know when it is? Excellent. Round of applause for Lori. That's a great question. The next one is November 2nd through the 4th. The next one after that will be February 22nd through the 24th. We teach it 4 times a year at the Salt Palace. That was a great question. Okay, so now I have another copy of the bucket list. Anybody want to win that one? Yeah. Yay! So this one goes to Shauna Ward. She's in the bathroom. Are you Shauna Ward? I'm Shauna Kelly Ward. Oh, sorry. I couldn't quite read it. I apologize. This is Shauna Kelly Ward. Would you give her a big round of applause? You're so welcome. Do I get a hug?
Yes, you can.
Oh, awesome. Thank you. Okay, then I have a copy of Don't Dump Your Cup. Who would like this one? Yay. So this one goes to Amy Webb. Congratulations, Amy. Do I get a hug?
Sure, why not?
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. All right, then I have I have 3 audio CDs I would like to give all away at once. Would anybody want 3 of them at once? Okay, now we want those. So Vision Board, our Perfection is a Direction, Vision Board, and Slay the Dragon. All of these going to one person. And the winner is Linda Arnold. I love that face. Wait, really? Me?
I've done positive thinking so many times and clap for somebody else.
Aw.
So
So here's two things I'm going to ask. One is, can you take the shrink wrap off so you can listen to them
Yes.
easier?
Yes.
And will you give me a hug?
Yes.
Awesome. Congratulations. Okay.
So also, I've done Master Your Influence once and bought 2 tickets for 2 of my kids.
Nice.
It's
So it's
awesome.
worth going?
Yes.
All right,
Yes,
awesome.
Yes.
Thank you. Big round of applause for Linda. All right, so I have really cool people in this room. Have you noticed? There's some really cool people here. So I'm going to make a special offer for you guys. Would that be all right if I do that? And the way it's going to look is this. I have 10 copies of 4 CDs. The 4 CDs are the ones, the Perfection is the Direction, the Vision Board, the Slay the Dragon, and then a 4th one, the Building a Mind of Steel that we talked about earlier. Those 4 audio CDs together are worth over $70. They're worth over $70. And so the first 10 people who register for the class get all 4 of those audio downloads as a gift from me. But I'm going to ask that you listen to them before you come to the class. Because if you have that information in your head before you come to the class, it will make a difference in how you absorb the information. So the first 10 people get those. Everybody will get a copy. Everybody who registers will get a copy of the Building a Mind of Steel CD. Everybody will get one of those. But the first 10 people will get a copy of all 4 of those. To register for the class, we have beautiful Alicia back here. Her name is Alicia Vanna White, and she does it very well. And Alicia can help you register for the class. You can register you or another person, because remember, my husband signed me up, so I feel for people. And you heard both Linda and Lori said that they have registered other people. So those first 10 people get that $74 value, I believe is what it is, for those 4 audio CDs. I'm also going to give you a different tuition. Not because the class is worth any less than this, but I just want to get past every chicken exit that you have. Because sometimes people are like, well, I can only come to 2.5 days. That's okay. And sometimes people are like, but I don't want to wait till February and I have to. That's okay too. And sometimes people are like, oh, well, 227, that's still a lot. So I'm going to take away all those chicken exits. I want you to come to the class. And I'm going to ask one thing in exchange. And that is that when you come to the class, please come say hi to me. The majority of the class is taught by the owner of the company, Kirk Duncan. He's the one that I learned from when I first came to the class. You'll see me there too. I'll be there too. The majority of this particular class is taught by Kirk Duncan. There's other classes in the company that he and I both teach together or that only I teach. But this particular one, it's him. You will love it. The information you will take away and the manual and all your notes is very valuable. So the reason I haven't put the number yet is I want you to choose in here. Choose in. Just know that the new number I'm going to put is less than that one. Okay? In case there were some of you that were afraid I was going to raise it, it'll be less. And you still get the $74 value of CDs. So I want you to come. I want you to come to the class. You register back there with Alicia to be one of the first 10. You're welcome to go back there. But before I put the number, are there any other questions about this class? Did I cover everything? That was good to check what date it was. All right, awesome. So I'm going to put the number on the board. You can go back to Alicia. I will stay here to answer questions for a few minutes. If you want to know about group mentoring, inside of your 3 Key Elements University, there's a thing that says Go Vertical Group Mentoring. That tells you a little blurb about it. And then come talk to me, and I'll tell you how to register for my next one that starts in November. Okay. You guys have been an amazing class. Here is your tuition to come to the class, and it includes the $74 value download of CDs. So give yourselves a big round of applause for being here today. You guys that are online, they are going to post online how you can take advantage of this same offer, because I also want you to be able to come. They'll give you a link. If you log into that right now, you'll also get those downloads sent to you. Thanks for being here. You guys are awesome.